Today we're driving the VW Golf GTI facelift, one of their most emotional, most popular models. And can this one here help to escape the crisis they're in at this moment? Later also talking about the current challenges VW is facing. Maybe you heard it from the news. But first of all, let's start here with the Golf GTI as it stands here right now, and the red GTI lettering right here. New with this facelift is the illuminated logo. You can better see it at night, of course. I think it's a very cool addition. And also new updated headlamps, optional IQ light, the matrix LED. You also see it right here. And then you also have cascading turning indicators, which again look pretty cool, especially in nighttime. And also in the lower part, we have the fog lamps. They are still available. I also activated them here statically. I think it's a very nice integration in this honeycomb design. The sensor moved in also to the central part here. And of course, you only use these fog lamps when it's really foggy outside and not just for show purpose, right? Another show purpose is, by the way, also a very cool welcome and goodbye light signature. Works both for the front and also for the rear. And of course, it's really nice when you welcome or say goodbye to your vehicle at night. Side profile, 4.29 m, 169 inches is the length, compact hot hatch. And then 17-inch wheels for the European market it starts. US market would start with 18-inch wheels. And these ones here are the option 19-inch wheels, the biggest ones that are available. Then you get a fixed sport suspension or a DCC. It's also with a special application when you pick the 19-inch wheels, for example, and we'll go into the comfort or sportiness or both features, the balance of that in the driving part very, very soon. Towards the rear, we have new tail lamps here in a rather three-dimensional modern style. This is also when you have the IQ light, then you have these special rear 3D lights. So when you go for that optional matrix LED, it looks most updated, so to speak. Lower part, real exhaust, because get your t-shirts right now from the Autogefühl fake exhaust police. There we are. And in this case, the fake exhaust police does not have a job today because these are real exhaust, standard exhaust. And well, we can listen to them very soon. I found the sound actually quite cool because they have like this plop and crackles still from the base exhaust. When you go for the Club Sport version, it's available in the European market, you can also get an Krapovich exhaust that sounds, of course, even richer. And I find always pretty cool that here the logo flips when you open the trunk, or also the rear view camera is hidden behind that here, that it's protected against moisture and dust and so on. Yeah, and I asked Leah, and one of her favorite features are also the fog lamps. You know, you're not supposed, at least not in Germany, supposed to have them on while it's not foggy. So it's then always depending, are you following the law or not? Let's take a look under the hood. Yeah, sadly the Golf 8 does not have gas struts. There we go. And this one here, now with the power upgrade, 20 horsepower more to 265 horsepower, 2-liter 4-cylinder TSI. And 5.9 seconds in the acceleration figure. That means 0.3 seconds quicker than before. So that also power-wise moves it closer to the GTI Club Sport. Of course, always front-wheel drive, but with an electronic lock in the front, so you don't have this strong understeering effect, but more to that in the driving part. Now to the interior with the key fob still high gloss black. Not my special favorite, honestly. Door closing sound. The door of the Golf has always been famous for that. And still delivers. Also in the rear, maybe even better so. So really nice. Inside of the doors. Here is a little bit soft, just a little bit, I would say. And then you have this, the standard decor is called mesh, but to me it is like a fake carbon fiber. And honestly, looks and feels a little bit cheap. However, if you want to spend the money, they also offer optional a real carbon fiber decor element. And that looks really cool then, but it's also expensive. Then microfiber on the inside here, that's cool. Then a little bit softer here for your elbow. And what I also find pretty cool is like the emergency vest. Here you have the felt inside covering at the inside of the doors and a huge door pocket, very well usable. Then steering wheel, now with a change with the facelift, They started off with the hashtag capacitive BS buttons at the steering wheel. Now they went back, they listened to customer feedback. Thank you so much. So we also had, with our community here, with you, a major influence on that. Real buttons on the steering wheel, and then the typical GTI Karo-Sitze, the houndstooth pattern. This is really cool. Actually, I found it cool because it's special, it's unique, and then with some microfiber inserts. In the Club Sport version, you would also get a microfiber on the inside of the seat. That's, to me, maybe a little bit even cooler, I feel. And yeah, they house you in a little bit, so you're being kept tight in the corners, but not too tight. So I'm happy with the seats. With 189, 6'2", still some headroom left here above my head, and the steering wheel adjustment is manual here. Also really fine with me, and is also a smooth process. Interior cockpit overview. First of all, what I find quite cool, here the ambient light integration is in between here at the moment in red, even better visible at night. Soft touch here on the dashboard. Yeah, this fake carbon fiber deco element, the standard one. If you go for a lease, maybe whatever, if you want to buy and keep it, maybe spend the money on the carbon fiber deco element if you want to live with this car for 10 years or something, because it will be more premium definitely in the looks. And the big thing here, big news, is of course the screen, now bigger, 13-inch. That's also standard, still with sliders. However, they are illuminated, but the major thing is really that we actually do have the larger screen, soon more details to that, and also a software and hardware upgrade, because there have been major software issues. That's one of the things, also the reasons why they haven't been selling that well recently. But now upgraded, and we have a way better impression already from that whole system here. Let me tell you that so far. Then middle console, we have two USB-C chargers in the lower part, and below that is an underneath this cover here an inductive charger. But I'll show you why that's not a good idea. So this is here the iPhone 14 Pro Max from Lear, and yeah, I don't know if that's a great idea. However, what you have to say is that this inductive charging pad that's underneath there is cooled, has like a vent hole, and that's why it it cannot overheat that quickly. Yeah, here you can see that the armrest can be adjusted like this, but then you have to put it over, up again, and then pull it down. And also with soft on the top part. It could be a little bit softer, however, I feel, for long journeys. But then nice red contour stitches. They are also really precise, everything. And also how it's built here, when you want to shake it left and right, that's all actually solid. Then in the middle part we have the cup holders, which you can let disappear here. Then you press the button, then it's back again. But yeah, for like paper cups, it's fine. But for, let's say, higher bottles, it's not that great, actually. And interesting that the key fob here does fit in this middle console right here. So you can put it here, for example, that fits in. A lot of high-gloss piano black that collects fingerprints and scratches really easily. Not a good idea. Integrated shifting lever, 7-speed DSG, always now for the GTI, and the start-stop engine button is here. So to select the driving modes, you always have to go here. That's the only possibility, or directly in the screen, of course, but this is then the shortcut. And then you can access the driving modes right here. So there we go. There are the driving modes, and I'll also tell you more about the DCC, this optional adaptive suspension, soon. Driver POV looks like this. Good size of the steering wheel, and then once again with the buttons you can really press. Also, for example, for the cruise control, nice to have them back, definitely. Digital instruments are actually nice to read. You can also control it here with the view button, and then change some views right here. For example, like this, so whatever you prefer, and also some individual contents. And you can also get optional heads-up display. I have that on the snow mode actually at the moment. It's not flickering, by the way, it just does it on camera here at the moment. And then this 13-inch screen here, as I said, the temperature sliders, but I leave it out for now just to have the best audio quality. And then you have this new view here, like in the new electric models, for example. So better overview, quicker from the hardware, and for example, quick access to the assistance systems, where you can also quickly deactivate the speed warning and so on. Rear doors, hardback here on the top part. However, you have a felt covering on the inside of the rear doors, so that's nice to have. And you have some smartphone pockets here at the back side of these bucket-alike seats. Same pattern on the rear seats, ISOFIX on the outside parts, and here pushing that one down. Cup holders not adaptive though, and a ski hatch you could also use. And this is all very solid in the build quality indeed. The only catch here with the Golf is the rear legroom, because this is here the short wheelbase of this MQB platform, and yeah, you see here when I'm driving as a tall person, there's hardly any legroom left. So I'm hitting the seat here with my knees. Headroom does exactly fit, however. And what I also want to show you here, a fabric covering for the very outside part, and it's also somewhat plush. It's also good as a nice bolstering here for the rear passengers. About the boot or the trunk, here always with flipping the logo, that's a cool thing. And some of you asked me to put in the cabin trolley in a vertical way to show if that fits, and yeah, it does. And there's like a mere of 40 inches in width, and the standard length here is 76 centimeters or 30 inches. And the height here, well, to measure that correctly, you have to put up this one. So this is how it falls down, and then you can push it out. Then we can easier access the height here, for example. And there we go, with some 70 centimeters or 27 inches. And of course you can also fold the seats, and if this cover is gone, then you can easier fold the seats from here. There we go. And underneath, by the way, there is more space. In this case then we have the subwoofer if you have that optional sound system. And the total length total length at 140 meters or like 56 inches. Sport mode. That was 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Yeah, and yes, in everyday driving life, I try to drive fuel efficient, definitely. But sometimes it just gives you this satisfied feeling. And yeah, you might say on the only hand, it's just a Golf, but hey, it's a Golf GTI. And exactly this. You can do with that. Nice. But did you feel that, or did you see that? Like when I was like the second acceleration, when I was flooring it all the way in, it was like a split second where it was like, like, I don't know, hitting something with the clutch or something. Yeah, but it still was quick enough. And before that, when I was driving onto the motorway, there was this guy bullying me from behind for, for whatever reason. I didn't drive too slow, didn't drive too quick, but sometimes you have these people. And then when you go to the motorway, you can just, they maybe don't expect you to be that quick, but with the updated GTI, now under 6 seconds, this acceleration figure 5.9, 20 horsepower plus, and you do feel that. So it's a little bit more spiritful, I would say. And here in the sport mode, we also have more response there from the suspension. It has such a great handling, It's a very precise steering here, lane change. It's just so nice. Your legs look also very nice. Check it out. High-grade leatherette, of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the Golf GTI. The handling is just so superb. And with this power upgrade here, you might say, hey, I don't necessarily need the Club Sport version, and I also don't necessarily need like the corresponding highest trim in the US. Here, German Autobahn today, they also in the US market have a trim called Autobahn, which is also like a higher trim level and so on. This one here also higher equipped, but not as expensive as the Club Sport. The Club Sport gets the Akrapovic exhaust, but other than that, this one here already delivers. Nice. Yeah, very good acceleration. Wind noise, of course, gets kind of noisy when we're at really, really high speeds. There you feel it's only the compact segment. It's kind of windy outside today, though. I have to mention that. Yeah, but here now, I'd say like at 120 kilometers an hour, like 70 miles an hour, it's actually also fine. The great thing is that the DCC gives you good comfort, considering we have the 19-inch wheels here, so you can go different combinations. There's a fixed sport suspension option, you can get the DCC, the adaptive suspension, and you can go US market 18 or 19-inch wheels, and here in Europe you can go 17, 18 or 19-inch wheels. And this also varies how the car is handling. Here now is the sport is set up 19-inch wheels with the DCC and the special application for the 19-inch wheels, and this kind of saves the comfort a little bit for the 19-inch wheels. But you have to remind yourself, like the biggest minus in comfort you can have here for the GTI is to go from the 18 to the 19-inch wheels. So I feel that the best setup for this vehicle from visual parts, sportiness, comfort is the 18-inch wheels DCC setup. If you want more comfort, then the 17-inch DCC, if that's available in your market. But 19-inch I feel is great here on the motorway. That's lovely to drive. But when you're driving in the city and have some fierce bumps and so on, then I think it's not the best idea actually to have the 19-inch wheels. So 18-inch I think is a very good compromise then between everything. And I love every lane change. Sometimes you tend to, let's say, exaggerate a lane change a little bit, do it a little bit fiercer than you would usually do that, just because it's fun. It's fun for you as well? Yeah? Or is it already getting a little bit... Sorry about that. Yeah, but I mean, Leia is used also to way fiercer acceleration. Meanwhile, I mean, all the different electric vehicles out there, they have better acceleration. So the Leia meter wasn't really going off in that acceleration here. It's only front-wheel drive, and 5.9 seconds is not the quickest one. But hey, it's a compact hatch. It's a hot hatch. That's what the GTI does. And still the handling is nice and the acceleration is good. Overall does a great job, and you just feel one with the car really quickly. And I've been driving Golf GTIs and also Golf Rs on the racetrack, and they really perform very well on the racetrack. And since you have this electronic differential lock, you also don't have this effect that the front wheels would steer you in a way, or maybe like hard understeering or something, although it's all front wheel driven. That's actually really fine. Here now, when we have some fierce bumps, then I feel, especially when we have it in the sport setting, picking the modes here in the lower parts, not the most ideal thing. That is better than with the R, where you have the button at the steering wheel. Then again, the R still gets the hashtag capacitive PS steering buttons, whereas this one has the real hard buttons on the steering again. The GTI and the Golf 8 started with the capacitive PS buttons, here now nice S combination, but now they went back to hard buttons, and I think sometimes here when... Interesting. Oh. How come we were in the manual mode? Did I hit the pedals at some point? I don't know. Strange, right? Because you have different situations. So you can go here into the S shifting mode. You can go to D shifting mode, normal one. And then when you hit the pedals, you can also shift up or down yourself. And this is also handy here. Doesn't really steer me from the front wheels, so hardly hear that effect. Yeah, really nice. And for example, situations, hey, I want to accelerate a little bit quicker maybe, and maybe shift down yourself first or something. It's also nice to shift up yourself. Take it in, there we go. That's a lot of fun. Great. So at least you have these possibilities, because 7-speed DSG is now a standard, so there is no manual option anymore. On no market, manual is completely gone. They say they just didn't sell enough. It didn't really pay off. Here, by the way, when you pull the shifting lever, you can directly change it again. And depending on the mode here, for example, in the comfort mode, everything is more relaxed. Also better suspension comfort. So now it evens it out a little bit better. However, the DCC always rules in the spectrum. So it's always between comfort and sportiness. That's what it's making also quite good. I think I would also go for that one, at least, unless you really want specifically that very, very stiff ride of the fixed sport suspension. Then, by the way, here, cruise control, we can set it on the steering wheel, different mode, for example, the travel assist. Travel assist is the most sophisticated one, and then you can set it here. It has been updated as well, and now the car is being kept automatically in lane. distance to the car in front of us being kept, and also side assist here, so we keep everything centralized, and then there are hardly any steering corrections and so on. Of course, you're supposed to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but it's doing it in a very smooth way. And then you also have another set like blind spot monitor and so on integrated in the side mirrors. But today we are really quick on the German Autobahn, so there's hardly anyone catching us from behind. So tough to show you the blind spot monitor in that case. Yeah, when it's windy outside here at 140 kilometers an hour, I think wind noise could be a little bit better. That's maybe something to criticize. Seats-wise, in the European market, we get the Club Sport version with microfiber seating. That's probably even a little bit cooler, but probably what you prefer. Here, the fabric seats in this special houndstooth pattern there. Karo Muster, we also say in Germany. And let's go one more time into that sport mode. Also the exhaust note. It's like the fake exhaust note, and from the inside is also enhanced by the speakers. Nice S combination here. Now that Swift is blocking us a little bit now. Yeah, but also here over these transverse bumps, the car doesn't like set off to the left or right or something like that. So everything very well balanced. That's to me the main thing. And hey, this power upgrade, you really feel that. Pure economy, at least when you also use that vehicle, that power at some point 8 liters and 1 kilometers, 29 mpg US, 35 mpg UK. You can of course score something better if you keep it rather steady and really low speeds at the Autobahn and so on, but that is a realistic fuel economy. And overall, this facelift here with these visual changes, pretty cool, a little bit more modern. I still feel that the headlamps should be the other way around, like they were in the Golf 7, that just looked better. So I feel that visually it kind of lost a little bit in the 8th generation, but now with the facelift, I think some nice changes. I also really like the illuminated logo. Maybe it's not much, but it is something and quite nice. And also the interior updates, really important that hardware and software is now upgraded, that this one is more reliable and also quicker, really important point. And now in general to the situation at Volkswagen at this moment. You've maybe followed the news over the recent years. So the first problem, of course, was the diesel scandal. So they lost a lot of trust and customer with that, and also had really high economic costs from that. Then came all the software problems, and of course it was not only the software but also the hardware behind the software that was too slow. So I think there were too many cost cuts and also a wrong strategy with their whole software company at first. You've maybe also taken from news that they will probably close their software company, this CARIAD division. And they, on the other hand, invested in XPeng, the Chinese manufacturer, and also in Rivian, the US EV manufacturer, also to get more software knowledge from them and then cooperate with them on the local markets and also gain knowledge for their own next software developments. So they are now switching their strategy and gaining more knowledge as for these aspects. We have seen also some upgrades here with hardware and software. But since for many years now, this software has been so bad, it really scared off many customers as well. And then they lost, more customers and money with that once again. And also this, like slider technology in the interior didn't really work out. Also the EV sales from the initial models, people rather expected, hey, build a cool Golf, but make it in a serious range for the electric models, So that's what everyone expected, but they didn't deliver. They went for this separate ID family, which no one really wanted, They still are quite good in the sales, especially in Europe and Germany as for the electric vehicles, but only because they offer good leasing rates in comparison to the other manufacturers. Not necessarily because the ID models are, better than the other EVs. That's the thing. Then the main problem is, of course, and that is not only concerning VW, that the sales in China are breaking away. So lower sales in China because the Chinese, they are rather buying their own brands now. They are coming all the way with their new electric vehicles, a lot of new EV brands. And before it was like, hey, they wanted to buy some German vehicles. Now the newer generations where I think, why should I buy the same brands that my father used to buy? I want to buy something fresh from a new startup with modern technology and so on. And so the profits and sales from the Chinese market break away. And then, this planning ahead, for example, also in Europe with the EV policies. So at one hand, everyone thought, yeah, everything is going to be EV. Now it's more like, yeah, EVs will be very important in the future and they will keep growing, but maybe not as quickly as expected. And then it's maybe not all EV again. And corporations had to set their strategy on that. And so on the one hand, VW was late with their EV strategy. And on the other hand, they now set everything and so much money into the EV investment, whereas there weren't so many EV sales as expected. So many problems, which were strategically, maybe at some point also wrong, but also the policy decisions are critical in a way that you cannot plan that much ahead from the competition. Yeah, everything is really complicated in the automotive industry nowadays, so it's also no wonder that VW has these structural problems. And now they're even thinking about closing plants in Germany. Yeah, and if the job guarantee is not really safe anymore and so on, they are really in huge discussions now. But I think the most important step is that you acknowledge these problems and then you can actually work with them, and we will closely follow that for you. So this was a very large conclusion, and of course the Golf GTI plays a major role still because, yeah, it's not all about EV sales at Volkswagen. Core models like these ones help the brand, of course, to keep this likability factor really high and will still contribute to the profit and the sales of the vehicle company overall. What do you think about this issue and of course about the Golf GTI? Tell me in the comments and tune in to more Golf reviews.